Hola, I'm Darkis and welcome to my studio. Today I'm gonna show you how I painted a flamingo with flowers. Here's the mockup I created and I'm gonna be using the Arteza acrylic paints. They're not paying me to make this video, but they did provide me with the paints, so I'll put the affiliate links below in case you're interested in checking them out. And in case you do decide to purchase, I do get a small commission from it. So I start off with a simple sketch as usual, and even though I'm not showing it here in the painting, this is pretty much what I'm thinking of as I'm drawing it. I'm thinking in simple terms. For the body's main color, I'm using a combination of reds which include scarlet red, burnt sienna, crimson red, and rose. Here's a close-up and here's the consistency of this paint, and as you can see it's very transparent, which is great for glazing. Now I'm doing the underpainting, and besides the rose I'm using cold gray, which is one of my favorite colors from this set. This was pretty much my go-to color every time I wanted to change the value without having to go too light or too dark. To create the pink, I simply mixed scarlet red and white. And for the beak, I used pure black. Here I'm just playing around with the paint, trying to come up with sort of a pink-orange tonality so that the flamingo is not all pink and it gives it some vibrancy. Now I'm trying to build up the shadows for the flowers using violet. So I want to give you a little backstory about why I chose the flamingo. I've been living in Florida for most of my life, so I guess I thought that I couldn't call myself a Floridian if I didn't paint a flamingo on my channel. So this is why I decided to paint a flamingo, and I'll probably be painting a couple of more of these in the future. In case you're not familiar with Florida, we are mostly known for our oranges, beaches, flamingos, alligators, and tourists. Lots of tourists. Those are just off the top of my head, so I'm sure I might have missed some. For the eye, I'm using Iridescent White. I mentioned in my last video that I really liked how the Iridescent White made the eye look doll-like, so I decided to use it again. As I started doing the close-ups, I realized that my hands were a hot mess, so I got a quick manicure. Here I'm fine-tuning the edges and doing some shadows and highlights. I continue doing more highlights on the neck, doing some more shadows, and then I start the leaves. For the darkest parts of the leaves, I'm using Prussia Green, which is a dark green, emerald green for my medium tones, and for my highlights I use a mix of emerald green and cadmium yellow or lemon yellow. For the darkest parts of the flower, I'm using a mix of black and scarlet red, and that gives me sort of a burgundy red, a really dark red. So as I was doing this painting, my brush fell on the paper, leaving a trail of pink. So I decided as a quick fix to simply paint white over it. So if this were to ever happen to you, I guess here are 3 ideas that you can do. The first one is to just paint over it with whatever color your background is to try and match the spill or the spot. The next thing is, and that is just to put the paint on those specific spots. Now, the other thing you could do is just paint the whole background of, in my case, I could paint the whole background in white so that it looks even. And the other thing will be to just leave it there and make it part of the painting, or just modify it so that it fits with your composition. So those are some ideas as to what you can do if something like this were to happen to you. Now I'm using white to highlight the flowers and the roses, and later on I'm gonna come back with a glaze of pink and glaze over some of them. I'm also gonna use some reds and different combinations of glazes just to try and give it depth. At this stage I start working more with my values, trying to bring some flowers forward and push some of them back. So you might have heard me say that it's okay to start ugly, and the reason that I'm saying is because when I first started, I almost gave up painting because I was so frustrated on how ugly my paintings looked at the beginning. So this is me just trying to encourage you to keep on going and don't give up, that it's okay to start ugly, but that you will eventually get there. Here I'm doing some highlights of green, and then I realized that my painting needed much bigger flowers and roses, so I started adding them where I thought they would look the best. So overall, I really liked working with Arteza. The main things that I liked about it were the brightness, the consistency, the packaging, the transparency, and the nice sheen finish that it has once it dries. So for a beginner, I definitely will recommend it. I'm trying to think of some cons and I really can't think of any. But I guess I would say maybe that it dries fast, but so do most acrylic paints. And also some people might not like that is a lot of the paints are transparent. So it works for me because I work in layers, so transparency is good, but for some people it might not, that might not be what they will use it for or what they need. So those are the only two things that I can think of right now, but I'm probably gonna do a couple of reviews on Arteza just to see how far I can take it. For the legs, I used Lukas Gold, and I didn't like where I put it initially, so I ended up having to move it and cover the old one with white paint. So here's the finished piece. I really had a lot of fun painting this flamingo and just letting my imagination run wild. And I really like that. I went with the flowers instead of the typical just the feathers or just the flamingo. So I hope this gives you some ideas for you to create of your own and to not be afraid to try different things. So I lost my camera and the footage for my fish painting, so I'm just gonna go ahead and do a different one. Thanks for watching! And if you like this video, Don't forget to like, sub, and share. If you like to be notified every time I post a video, make sure to hit the bell. So were you able to guess what the next paintings are gonna be about? If so, put your comments below. And don't forget that it's okay to start ugly.